Hello, I'm Shiv, and welcome to episode 1 of the Royal Rivalries, a brand new series here on the Royals Fan TV. We start off reviewing what is one of the biggest and oldest rivalries in the sport, the Ashes. Joining me today on this inaugural Royals Rivalries episode is Vinay from England. Vinay, how are you doing?
Hi Shiv, it's good to be here and I hope you're doing well. How are things in Sydney?
Pretty good, yeah, pretty good. Good to be out and about. We were in lockdown for about 3 or 4 months, so getting out of it just in time for the summer and most importantly, the summer of cricket. So yeah, happy to be out and about.
Brilliant.
Right, so so as we know, the Ashes is returning down under with Australia being the title holders for the first time in almost 2 decades. As was expected, or probably as was not expected, there's been a good series of developments that have led to this particular series of the Ashes. So we're here to chat about it and also obviously chat about what we think in relation to where the series is going and players to watch out for and the like. So obviously, just to start off with, when I think probably the earliest development that sort of got everyone talking as a lead up into the series was the whole 𝗖𝗂𝗽 cricket episode. So just wanted to get your perspective on how that's been perceived there, and how it's been received by fans and just everyone else in the community who've been following the sport.
Yeah, obviously it's kind of shocking to see Azim's kind of statements and what experiences. I think it's really underlined kind of racism and discrimination that's kind of existed not only in cricket but probably across some other sports as well. But it's good to have it kind of surface and look in terms of the statements that he made. Look, ECB are kind of following that up quite seriously. They've kind of rolling out a program down to the county levels. So they're taking prompt action. ECB, as the governing body, is kind of stepped in to make a program and to really kind of educate the sport and look at kind of addressing the kind of dressing room culture. So, they're identifying so many different areas, and I think it can only be better. Joe Root has a strong link with Yorkshire as well, and he recently kind of came out and reiterated that that's coming from the Test captain, that's coming from one of the idols of kind of cricket here in England. So, there's a positive kind of stance being made on what was a bad situation, and anything that can prevent it from happening in the future is great for individuals and youngsters that are coming into the game. It's kind of disrupted kind of the hype and the great build that the Ashes have, but Australia itself has its own controversies as well.
It's just been a series of very interesting wake-up calls for both England and Australia, and I don't know if it's good timing or bad timing, but it's never too late to have these wake-up calls, and like you said, it eventually leads to people pulling up their socks and making sure that the game is back in its place and back to be where it was supposed to be. There were so many different ways of looking at it, and obviously it could have been avoided, no doubt about it. But for a large section of the fans here, I don't know if I speak for all of them, but we weren't very excited about having Tim Paine continue as captain for Australia in red ball cricket anyway, and that was also around the time this scandal came about. So probably one way of looking at it was, this was probably what it took for someone like him, for us fans to see someone like him sort of step back and step down from captaincy. But obviously, no way is it justified, just his actions. It definitely wasn't something you would want in a sport like cricket. And although it didn't happen anytime recently, it was definitely something we could have avoided. But it does sort of, not just for Cricket Australia, but just for cricket boards around the world. I think it does help cricket boards sort of revisit their standards and what they've set for their players and staff. And I think interesting time for this to break out. Just to have someone like Pat Cummins take over as captain. I've been a massive fanboy of Pat Cummins probably ever since he started playing cricket. I've always believed that he is the next big thing for Australia, and he sort of is the big thing now. for Australia. And maybe there's a bit of bias coming from my side when I say that I was excited to see him as captain. Just in relation to him being a pacer and taking over as captain, on paper doesn't sound like a very bright idea for any team, especially in red ball cricket. I still think that he's got the kind of experience to lead the side. I look at it is that it's a good sort of segue for Steve Smith to come in. And just if you look at the larger picture, I don't know if it would have made a lot of sense for someone like Steve Smith to be appointed as captain immediately after what happened with Tim Paine. I think this is a good transitional phase for Cricket Australia, and they couldn't have thought about anyone better than Pat Cummins to take over. And I think it just brings about it is sure to bring about a very different dynamic to the whole series. And just the way Australia has approached the Ashes is not going to be what it's going to look like, with the series starting in not very long from now. So what do you make of England?
Yeah, look, excited by the kind of squad. If I think about my kind of preferred starting 11, you got kind of like 𝗖𝗄𝗃 𝗵, who's been playing well in the warm-up matches. Looks like he's in form, opening with Rory Burns. And then you got Dawid Malan, pretty solid, proven player. Then Joe Root, for me, one of the best batsmen in the world at the moment. And then in the middle order, Ollie Pope, a young, talented batsman. There is also kind of Bairstow there as well. So my preference is to kind of go with Ollie Pope to give him the opportunity. Ben Stokes, one of the greatest all-rounders. So great to have him back, such a morale boost for the team, and hopefully should scare Australia a little bit. And Butler, Joss the Boss, our Rajasthan Royals resident, taking the gloves, definitely. And the bowling lineup, so there's so many great players in the squad, but Robinson, who did really well last season, and need Mark Wood, need the pace, because we haven't got Archer through the injuries, etc. So have to go with pace with Wood, and then Anderson probably over Broad, just because it's the first match, it's at the Gabba. So if you look at the squad as well, just in terms of on the bench, you've got Dan Lawrence and Zach Crawley, who can come in for Dawid Malan if needed, or Bairstow. There's Chris Wokes, Craig Overton. So excited by the squad. My kind of starting 11 is around those kind of players I've mentioned, and really looking forward to the match at the Gabba.
Especially with Alex Carey finally getting a call up. I think it was a little contentious where someone like Josh Inglis has been, around for a fair bit in the circuit and been consistent. I still think Alex Carey as a selection option makes sense, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how he goes in the Ashes. I think he's been around for a bit, and I do think that this would be a good time for him to sort of finally step up. And with Steve Smith taking over as vice captain, I'm definitely looking forward to see how he uses that leadership role and sort of tries to translate that into his batting as well. And for a cricketer like him, those are the kind of things he counts on, not just his batting form. I was also quite excited to see Usman Khawaja getting a call up. Again, not equally well received by a lot of Australian fans and ex-cricketers alike. There was some interesting conversation around that where I think it was one of the Chappell brothers, I think it was Ian Chappell, who criticized his selection, and Khawaja had a nice little reply where he said that Ian Chappell is probably not the best Chappell in his own family. So well figured to play from his own family. So no, definitely I'm definitely hoping that whatever the lineup is for Australia, it should be centered more around leading the attack with the bat more than just with someone like Pat Cummins taking over as captain. At least from memory, I don't think he's got a lot of experience even in the domestic circuit as captain. He's probably captained a couple of times, but getting right into it with the Ashes would be a very, very interesting approach, because he's got the squad to back him. It's just about seeing what happens, especially with with the first test coming up in Gabba.
At the kind of the venues, the Gabba, Adelaide Oval, MCG, SCG. I think the Perth 5th test has been kind of going to be rescheduled to probably possibly a day-night at MCG. But look, all of the Australian venues, fast tracks, you've got to favour the Aussies on their home. I think every every kind of venue's got its own challenges for England, but they've just got to put an all-round performance in each. Interesting is with Perth now being rescheduled, the talk about a day-night will make it really to see the ping ball swinging a bit more. That's where Anderson can come in. So, that's probably one to look out for.
The venues that we have, which are on paper typical venues, I think some of the opportunities England has is at a venue like the 𝗖𝗫𝗃, which hasn't really been, let's say, well known for producing the best of pitches among all the other pitches in Australia for Test match cricket. But I think just when you compare the squads and just the kind of position both squads are in, I think England has a way to go and probably has a bit of an upper edge over Australia at a venue like the 𝗖𝗫𝗃, not just for the potential day and night test, but even for the Boxing Day test. I can probably go as far as saying that the Gabba won't be just an easy one for England, especially to start off with. The Adelaide will be a pretty tight contest, but again, I'm more curious to see how it goes with the two tests, at least the one test that's happening in the 𝗖𝗫𝗃 during the Boxing Day period, as well as the potential fifth test. And Sydney again, I feel like it'll be pretty evenly contested. I've got my ticket for day one, Sydney.
Oh, fantastic!
Excited. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of breaking a tradition and also starting a new one. So I was in Melbourne right before I moved in. I used to go. I've been to day one of Boxing Day for the last 4 years. So this is the first time I'm not going to go for it. I didn't want to risk it and go to Melbourne with, what with the borders being a little wonky. I didn't want to take a risk, but it's going to be my first ever Sydney test. So definitely looking forward to that series. Definitely looking forward to that match. Sorry, to sort of wind up at that and the fact that we're going to get started at Gabba. What do you reckon? Where do you think that game's going, and who has a good chance?
Like you said, it's you kind of favour the Aussies on that kind of in Queensland. I hope it's kind of like 2-2 and we go into a day night at the 𝗖𝗫𝗃 for match 5. But the way I kind of see the series going, as much as I want England to win in Australia, it's tough.
I do really think that the first test is going to sort of set the tone for the rest of the series. But then, like you said, it would be pretty interesting if we go into a situation where both teams have won 2 tests each and we're into the 5th test. The first one is probably going to be a little bit easier for Australia. The only advantage probably England has is that we've got a fresh captain who's just sort of getting his headings around, leading a side against an English side which isn't, lacking in any particular department. So that's definitely something, that's probably one thing that England can be a little relieved about. The Australian side is going to be led by Pat Cummins, who, despite being one of the best cricketers around today, is a very new cap. It's not going to be a situation where we have tests winding up in 3 days. I wouldn't expect that in at least in England-Australia test match, but I'm hoping we have at least a minimum of 4 days in play for all test matches.
Got the women's sides as well playing for the Ashes late January, so that's another part of the game. I kind of see the England women's team doing quite well in Australia. Again, good squad. Again, it's going to be probably pretty close, but hope they kind of do well. And both for England men's and women's. I really hope that we can do really well.
Pretty stoked about the England-Australia women's test as well coming up. I might try and go for it at least for one of the days. It's down in Canberra. It's not too far from here. But no, I think it comes at a good time, and I think it'll be a good. I mean, we're at a stage where even the WBBL has recorded pretty good numbers in terms of viewership, and this is a sort of a nice way to sort of wind up the summer of cricket for women in Australia. Definitely looking forward to seeing how we go next week. Very excited that cricket is back, or more importantly, Test cricket is back, and we'll see how we go. But this was a good chat, Vinay. Hopefully,
Great to
the
speak.
next time we catch up, I'm smiling a little bit more, and you're smiling as much.
I hope so.
But no, this is a good chat, and we'll see how we go.